Bright ideas for your home, a bumper crop of ideas for your garden, fashion shows, home computers, energy information, an architect's display, and my gourmet cooking. Fun for the whole family. Ideas grow at Vancouver's original home and garden show, #1 and still growing at Exhibition Park, February 3rd through 12th.
Meet celebrity chef James Barber at the Home and Garden Show.
BCTV, we're giving it all we got.
Good morning, and first a personal note. I must tell you that last night I slept extraordinarily soundly because of the fact that our Prime Minister and his peace mission have made friends and allies of East Germany and Hungary and Czechoslovakia. And with the knowledge that these Germans, the Hungarians and the Czechoslovakians will come to our aid in time of international trouble. The fact that the Americans are a little bit upset about the public discussion by the Prime Minister questioning whether the Americans would respond under the NATO agreements to an invasion of Western Europe is something else again. So we can now sleep soundly, secure in the knowledge that peace is on its way. I'm not being sardonic or ironic, I'm just being a little bit skeptical and cynical. And it's a good morning to be skeptical and cynical, because I have in the studio a senior cabinet minister of the Liberal government, a man who has a surprising number of friends considering he's a Liberal in British Columbia, a man who started off Indian affairs and Indian and Northern affairs. He was on the Treasury Board, he was trade and commerce, he was finance, he was justice, he was energy, is energy, and who knows what his secret hopes are for the future. The Honourable Jean Chretien. Morning, John.
Hi, Jack. How are you today?
You'll speak later.
Okay. I'm ready here.
For light relief I have this morning, I've got to get my list out. Where's my list? Where's my list? You'll notice that I am thinner. If I placed the camera higher, I'd be thinner still. But I have gone through the following diets. The Weight Watchers diet, the Stillman diet, the Mayo diet, the Beverly Hills diet, the Quick Loss diet, the Scarsdale diet, the Cambridge diet, the Save Your Life diet, the high protein diet, the liquid protein diet, the no drinking diet, the drinking man's diet, the grapefruit diet, and the banana diet. And I've lost at least 300 pounds, and I've put on back 290 of them. But I have here the author, terribly English accent she has, but she seems awfully charming, Audrey Eyton. Audrey Eyton. The originator, founder, and salesperson for a diet which has swept Britain and has swept Canada. It's called the F diet, the fiber diet. So during the course of this program, I shall lose another 10 pounds. But first, the serious side with the inimitable Jean Chretien after the break. Prime Minister Trudeau's peace mission to Europe. Do you think anybody in Europe really takes it seriously? Is it not a fact that Thatcher and the other European leaders have been and are doing the same thing right now, and that he's trying to cash in on it for political purposes?
You know, I don't think so. Jack, everyone agree in Canada that something has to be done. If he had not done it, you know, he would not have done what was needed to be done. The problem is we have to make sure that this debate goes into the end of the politicians and not only the generals who, you know, who had their numbers of warheads and so on. And I think that he's done it, and he's not done it for political reason. It was his duty to do it.
You're not the External Affairs Minister, but there seems such arrant hypocrisy in testing the crews and all the rest of it, and then going to Europe to dicker with, of all people, East Germans, the Hungarians, the Yugoslavs, everybody but Albania. The Americans are our best friends.
And that's why we're testing the crews. You know, you say we should not test the cruise, but the cruise is part of the NATO policy, and we have more lands than anybody to test it. And, you know, and the test is not done with any warhead. It's just a mechanical test, and it is to help the NATO nation to develop that missile so that we can compete, the Americans can face the situation in Europe.
When you're Prime Minister, will you take a same active part in international affairs, or will you concentrate on the disastrous condition of our economy?
You know, I don't know if I will be the Prime Minister. Do you think I should be, Jack? That's the question I'd like to ask
Well,
you.
let me ask. It's a matter of fact. I said at the beginning, and I mean it, and this is an honest remark, you are the only Liberal cabinet minister I can think of offhand, and certainly, as a French-Canadian, you might think there's a built-in handicap, but you're the only French-Canadian I know of who has any support in the west of this country. Would you accept that as a compliment?
Yeah, I accept the compliment, but coming from Webster, you know, there's a little bit of exaggeration. I think that there is a lot of Canadians who speak French who can do very well in BC.
But you know perfectly well, and we're not talking about you personally yet, you know perfectly well that it's not the turn of a French-Canadian, and ipso facto they've got to bring out some English-speaking candidate who must de facto be the leader of the Liberal Party. Is that not the tradition of this country?
You know, if everybody talks, you know, the job is not open, so you're speculating.
Hypothetical.
But I suppose that between now and 2020, the job's open. Should I or should I not? You know, the question is, if the people talk about alternating, I will forgive you, Jack, not knowing your Canadian history. But the Liberal Party had 3 Anglo to begin with before Laurier came, so we have to do some catching up. Because there was Mackenzie, Brown, and Blake.
Are you suggesting to me that the Prime Minister of this country must be picked on his ethnic origin?
No, you know, for me, it's not a very difficult problem because the last time in 1968, my candidate, I supported Mitchell Sharp. We did not win, but, you know, I was not bothered by that, and there was 8 Anglo against Trudeau. So I think that it's a kind of irrelevant question.
It's not really irrelevant. Matter of fact, Paul Martin says this question of switching from Anglo to French-Canadian to Anglo is a phony. He says that's a phony, and that it's not in the tradition of Canada, as you say too.
You know, it's a good happening of but I guess that Trudeau did not win last time because he was Franco. He won because he was the most popular candidate at that time, and it took 5 ballots for him to win. So I guess that everybody in Canada, French, English, white, red, or black, or, you know, and Catholic, Protestant, Scot, whatever you want, you know, if they want to run, they should throw their hat in, and the best should be selected.
You obviously want to run, don't you, Mr. Chretien?
I will tell you something. Before I dive, I will look if there is water in the swimming pool. It's pretty prudent, because if there is no water, and I need a layer of English water, a layer of French water, and a layer of dollars. And if it's not there, I'm not going. Because I don't want to break my neck.
A layer of English water, a layer of French water, and a layer of dollars.
Yes, and I hope you will contribute, because I come here, you know, you pay me nothing ever, and we have a good time together. You're well paid for that.
If you think I'm going to give you a nickel, or any Liberal a nickel, when I look at your record across the last few years.
You keep it for Bennett, huh, don't you?
I don't give him a nickel either. But I might take up a collection for you if you're that hard up.
Apparently you contributed to Pocklington, I'm told.
Pocklington and I have the same IQ. I also leave my body at night and swan over Parliament buildings and spy on what you evil ogres are up to.
Oh, really?
Didn't you know that?
You must have fun.
No, you're just going to Gandhi dance. There's no doubt about it. I'll talk to the camera and see if he'll interrupt. Trudeau is going to quit. I'm almost sure that Trudeau's going to quit. And when the race comes up, the WASPs in the party, they want Turner. Turner wouldn't do very well in Quebec. And the next contender, who is already, I believe, is Jean Chrétien. That's if and when Trudeau quits. Is that correct? If and when Trudeau quits, you will throw your hat in the ring.
You know, if it is before 2020, as I said, and if the conditions are good in terms of the water, I'd like to have a dive.
In other words, you ain't going to commit yourself in any way, shape, or form until the time is right.
Of course.
You're only what now, 55?
No, 50.
50.
Going 45.
Yeah, you're 50 years of age. Tell me this, though. What about the scenario of the visit of the Pope? Does that delay an election until October? I mean, I'm speaking just off the record now.
No, I
It's
don't
only a
know.
couple
I
hundred
think that,
thousand.
I don't know. I'm not the boss, and I don't know what will be the consideration. I would be surprised that there will be an election at the same time that the Pope will be in Canada.
Here's another thing that just drives me round the bend. This is again hypothetical, Monsieur Chretien. Is it conceivable that for a period of time, subject to the timing and the non-sitting of the House of Commons, that we could have an outsider like Turner, leader of the Liberal Party, and de facto premier until he calls a session later on? That's conceivable, isn't it?
In theory, it's possible.
In practice, it's intolerable, isn't it?
I don't know. It depends of what the delegates will do. But in theory, Mackenzie King had been prime minister and was not in the House for a while. He was defeated a couple of times.
Right.
And he had to wait to get his seat.
Don't you
But in those days, Parliament was not sitting as often as it is today. I was not there in those days. You might have been, but I was not.
Don't you think the old, if I hate to mention the word British, but the old British system, whereby the Prime Minister is picked cleanly from among those elected to Parliament and not subject to charismatic sales techniques by a bunch of little old ladies in running shoes from all across the country with their fares paid, don't you think the British system of picking the Prime Minister from among those in the House of Commons is a better system and produces the best man who has the confidence of the House?
It's not the system we're having. Of course, if I were to be a candidate, I would say it would be a good tradition to have important in Canada, but it's not the system we're having. And if that system had existed in Canada, of course, you would not have Brian Mulroney as the leader of the opposition today.
Well,
But I'm happy that he is there.
Oh, would you please tell me why you were happy when only day before yesterday, Monsieur Lalonde, your good friend and one of the most powerful men with you in the government, had to apologize on that unfair insinuation that Mulroney wanted tax benefits for the rich? Eh?
Everybody makes some mistakes. What is great about it is that, Lalonde just admitted that he had made a mistake. And I was somewhat, for a lot of people who thought he could not do that, I knew that it was easy for him to do it.
Difficult.
In some ways, and it's good in politics. We're not perfect. The question is you have to look at the alternative, and sometimes it's awful. And, I think that I've made some mistakes in my political life, but my batting average, I hope, is good enough for me to survive.
Yeah, smart liberals always produce the old mea culpa bit, don't they?
Why not? If you have something to do it.
We'll talk about the energy policy. We'll talk about that radioactive site in Surrey. We'll talk about a number of other things with Jean Chretien. He's only 50. He's not 55. I deny that I said 55. He's 50. After the break. You've been energy minister for how long now?
A year and a half.
And I noticed Lalonde, your colleague, announced the other day that the temporary tax on, I think it's a Canadian ownership charge, to buy out Petrofino. How much was Petrofino?
We paid off. Was not there at that time when it was taken over. I think it was $1.5 billion.
$1.5 billion.
And after that, we kept collecting the money because, the dome was in trouble, and we said that we could not let it go belly up. It would have been, too much to take in the Canadian economy.
Too much for the banks.
For the banks, yes, but
Yeah.
So we decided to keep collecting. But now it looks like that dome will survive the difficult times, and since they have a new chairman, the banks are not pressing too much, so the money has been collected.
Yeah, in other words, you started as a temporary tax, and now you've made a permanent tax.
Yes, but if it will be used for Canadianization purposes, because we have programs, to make sure that the Canadian industry become more, the oil industry and gas industry become more Canadian, and the money will be used to that effect.
Well, that Canadian,
but not necessarily buying new companies. There is, like the PIP grants, where we give more grants to the Canadian company than to the Americans or foreign.
You mean you give it to American subsidiaries, which are Canadian companies?
No. Canadian company, Canadian-controlled company, a subsidiary of the United States company, don't have the same rate of grants in Canada land or even in provincial lands. And it's to Canadianize the industry, so we might use that money to do that, to just do that, and to achieve the goal that everyone subscribed to, that we should have at least 50% of that industry owned by Canadians.
Okay, let me get that clear. One, the temporary tax on Petrofina is going to be continued?
Petrofina has been paid. The tax is there since a year and a half now.
I know, but it was only...
Since 2 years. And after that, we've paid Petrofina, and after that, we collected $500 million in case we had to bail out Dome, and we don't have to bail out Dome, so we have the $500 million. And having the $500 million, we have to pass the law, to use it. And we will keep collecting in order to use the money to Canadianize the industry, because it's a Canadian ownership tax.
Well, most of us are in favor of motherhood and Canadianization. But looking back on it now, you will surely concede, Jean Chretien, that took a hell of a lot of money out of circulation, which helped to dampen our economy and create unemployment.
No.
Didn't produce a barrel of oil.
Didn't produce a barrel of oil. You know, do you or you don't want to Canadianize the industry? We were at 28, now we're close to 40% of the oil and gas industry owned by Canadians. And among the goals, we have to make sure that we attain self-sufficiency and security of supply. And, you know, in last year, for example, for the first time in many years, Canada has produced as much as has consumed in oil. The first time. And it looks it's going to be the same this year, too. And so we have to make sure that we have security of supply. We have it in natural gas, we have it in everything. Now we're doing it, and we're aiming at it in oil. And after that, we'll be completely self-sufficient in every form of energy.
And then will we stop subsidizing the eastern users of oil and give Alberta a chance?
Why? You know, they're having, in Alberta, they get more money per barrel of oil in the state of Texas.
Yeah, I know, but they don't sell that many barrels of oil nowadays. They've closed down so much of the development.
Alberta?
The Cold Lake, the heavy oil.
That's something else. The production of conventional and heavy oil in Alberta, it's 100% capacity today. The question that you're talking, there is no shut-in today. All the capacity is utilized because we're exporting some oil to western United States and we're importing in the east. But the big mega project that we're talking about were all predicated on the presumption that the price was to go to $60 a barrel.
Right.
The price is not going there, so the economics of the mega projects are not there anymore.
Okay.
Do you want to pay $60 a barrel?
No.
So it was done in case we were to go to that level. And, you know, I'm not advocating a $60 barrel for oil. So many of these projects are changing now. Rather than go to the mega project, they will do a series of smaller type of projects and developing more and more tar sands.
I understand, but I just want to get it quite clearly. Oil prices are still going down and our gasoline prices are still going up.
The price of the barrel of oil in Canada is 93% of the international price. The difference, you know, and if you look at the situation in Canada and the United States, for the producers and for the federal government and the producing province, they have, you know, less or about average than the United States. In many places in Canada, there is much more provincial taxes on oil and gasoline in Canada than in any state in the United States.
You're also greedy. That's the problem. We're taxed out of existence, as you well know. In the United States, I can cross the border. We can't compare it, but gasoline's a hell of a lot cheaper.
Yes, but I'm telling you that the producers in Canada don't get more than the producers in the United States. And the states in the United States don't get more than the provinces in Canada, the producing provinces, and the federal level, it's about the same.
You have backed down a bit, though, on some of Lalonde's energy policies, have you not?
You know, we have made it work. You know, there was a lot of controversy when I became the minister, and I had a lot of discussion with the industry and with the provinces, and I've signed deal with Alberta, Saskatchewan, you know, Nova Scotia. I'm having a little bit of a problem in Newfoundland.
A little bit of a problem called, what's his name again?
Peckford.
Peckford.
But sometimes I make mistake with that name. My English is defective at times.
Your English
like yours.
is perfect. As a matter of fact, I sometimes wonder if you do what I'm accused of doing.
Yes,
you know
I know that you practice at home, you know, to keep your Scottish accent, and I do like Maurice Chevalier. I practice to keep my French accent.
future Prime Minister who thinks he looks like
No, no.
Maurice Chevalier.
No. I'm speaking.
You speak, can you sing?
Not at all.
You're no good. More with Chretien. What was Maurice Chevalier's song? Louise!
Ma pomme.
After the break. Let's do a little local story. Little local story being BC. Maybe you'd never heard of it. There's a radioactive slag dump in Surrey where a judge of the Supreme Court said, stop beating around the mulberry bush, Chretien and Rogers, I think, if the provincial government, get rid of this stuff into a proper dump. And he set a deadline of March the 8th, so they'll all be back in court.
But I told my lawyer, tell the judge that we'll pay for the removal. Give me a site. I don't control the land in BC. It's the provincial government. Give me a site. I will pay to take the stuff out of there and put it in a safe place. But I don't own the land in BC. The Crown land in BC is provincially owned.
In other words, if environment here gets off its wakens up.
Whatever it is, if they get off it.
Yeah, and says, there's a site. You will move it once to move it.
Right away.
To another temporary site until you find
temporary or permanent. If they have a permanent site right away, so much the better. We don't have to move it twice.
Do we have a big problem of disposal of radioactive waste in Canada?
No, it is a problem, but not a major problem, because we have a lot of land in Canada and we can find good site. The problem is on the long term, when there might be an accumulation of it, we'll have to find technique to dispose of it safely. But now there is not a major problem, but in the past there was no consideration for that, so people buried those barrels and so on here and there, and now we have to clean it up.
All right, let's talk seriously for a moment about the economy. How are things in Shawinigan? What's the percentage of unemployed in your home riding?
About 17.
17%?
Yes.
And they've got you as a cabinet minister?
Yeah, but they know because I am doing my best for them. Of course, people knows that we're getting out of a recession. It takes some time.
Pulp mills in Shawinigan?
We have pulp mills, yes, and we have aluminum. Alcan has a plant there, and we have other, what I call primary industry. We're very much like BC in my own areas because we're very much depending on foreign market. Paper is exported, the aluminum is exported. So it's...
You would agree, though, that Canadians have got to suffer double-digit unemployment for a long time until world trade picks up, and that's the only way it can go, and the Liberals can do nothing.
But we're selling paper from my riding, just like you sell wood in BC.
We're locked out as of today.
So yes, I will give a break to my riding because we'll have more market for our paper. We're the paper is sold abroad. We use a bit of it, but now you are so much talking on the TV that nobody buys the paper, they listen to you, so we have to export the paper.
It's a totally unfair allegation. Newsprint's down all across the country. Ours is a little more expensive than yours. But that's not what I said to you.
But we're depending on international trade in my district like it is in BC. We're exporting wood, we're exporting paper, we're exporting aluminum, and of course we have to wait for the recovery in the world.
BC question, are you still willing and able to give the province of British Columbia something like $400 million for the gas pipeline to southern Vancouver Island? Because they're counting on that money from the feds.
We said that if they can justify the construction of a pipeline on Vancouver Island, we'll build it. It was part of the energy program. But we have to find out if there is enough client, because we're not about to put a pipe there just for a few. It has to be economical. And it is the question that is being discussed at this time. Like in Lake St. John's area, we decided to move not long ago, but I told them, that if you don't have contracts up to 60% of the capacity of the pipeline, I'm not going. And so Alcan sign and the paper mill signs and so on. So the distributor now knows that he has at least 60% of the utilization of the pipe that will be filled. Otherwise, if you're not to spend the money for a pipe that will not be economically viable.
That is roughly your attitude to Vancouver gas pipeline. If they can prove that 60% of the there'll be 60% utilization, you'll give them the $400 million.
I'm nice. If it's 59, I might be flexible.
No matter what they prove to themselves, they've also got to prove it to you before you sign the check.
But, do you think that I should use your tax money to put in the ground a pipe that people might not use enough?
We need the jobs anyway.
Yeah, but, it's an expensive job. You should put some of them on your payroll. And
well, you must say...
use them on your island. And
I'm
And-
sure you admire the tactics of Premier Bennett, the first premier in the country to show that he can go chop on numbers in the civil service. You must admire him for that.
Yes, you know, you have to do that sort of thing,
You
but you
haven't done
cannot.
it.
No, but you have to do it within reason. And he seems to be coming back somewhat from the big speech of the first day, and that's, you know, that's if he becomes reasonable. I think that everybody has to be reasonable. When you're liberal, you're basically a reasonable guy. You're in the middle of the road.
This is getting too serious, but I'm going to be serious in the next question, too. There is one group of unemployed or ex-employed in this country who do very well, isn't there, Mr. Chretien?
Which one?
The liberal appointments to the Senate. You've got 13 more to fill. Have you nominated any people for the 13 Senate vacancies?
Are you a candidate, Jack?
No.
Ah, I thought it was you were just making a pitch this morning.
Pitfield, Kirby, this and...
You don't think you will have fun with these guys?
They won't even talk to me if I have some fun with them. And it's incredible
So
appointment.
but if I go to the Senate, you will want to join me, won't you?
Well, that's all we can play golf. That's at $61,000 a year. If we can keep it to golfing. count
And with
me in.
your tax rate, you know, and there's not much that you will keep.
Excuse me, there's a computer watching me, but I hope it's also watching you.
All the way, you know, they grab it at the source. Myself, I have no problem.
But
you know, it is the same guy there, you know, to pay me to grab it. So I have no choice. I'm paid by the government.
You are
So I cannot hide it.
you are a tough, arrogant bunch, though. You got
Me?
it. You liberals.
No. Who tell you that?
I don't have to be
You know,
told
you-
it. I know it.
You
I
know,
can
you
see
saw,
it.
you saw the Minister of Finance who humbly apologized last week. Don't
Well-
say that we're arrogant.
A crack appeared in the roof of the chamber, but that was something else again. Listen, you are tough and arrogant,
Not me.
cold-blooded, liberal party.
No.
Patronage is the name of the game, is it not? And I'm talking about Senate
You know,
appointments.
You know, the problem that we're having is now, you know, look at the list of senators that have been appointed. How many of them, you know, used to be member of parliament? There is a lot of guys who serve in parliament who would have want to go there, who are still serving, who are not going. I don't think
And
that.
should go there.
I know. I think that when you name a guy like Ian Sinclair, you know, is he an incompetent guy? What about Leo Kohlberg? You know, what about Watts, the leader of the Eskimos? You know.
The principal qualification,
know-
sir, it seems to me, is to have been a defeated liberal candidate.
But
That's a very big qualification.
I named you three. You named me the former
You-
candidate. Kirby has never been a candidate.
No.
He was a civil servant like Pitfield.
Pitfield,
but he
another
never
one.
ran.
Ian Sinclair did his duty on 6 and 5, so he got his Senate seat.
You know, you saw what he said about it, you know.
Yeah.
Don't buy off Sinclair.
Sinclair does not take payoffs.
Yeah.
He must have been so happy being sworn in along with the woman who was radical at one time. What was her name again?
And cool.
Ann Cool.
Yeah.
She was the one who attacked patronage. She was the one who had some
She
trouble with
is
the law.
She is a dynamo. She's not an easy girl.
41 years of age, 61,000 a year for a woman who's never been elected of our money.
Yes, but she can make a contribution. She is not lacking of energy.
You mean she's
She
politically
is, no,
powerful?
and she's a very active social worker, and she is a woman, and she is the first black person appointed to the cabinet. I think that it is what is the Senate. It is to have a cross-section of all the people of
They're
Canada.
not 61,000 a year until they're 75. I mean, it's
You know, but
ridiculous.
don't complain. Just argue that we should have no Senate at all.
Why not?
Oh, but if it is your case, you can criticize.
Why not?
But don't apply to have a job if you want to close it down.
I have not applied to have
Come
a
on,
job.
it's what you infer a few minutes ago.
Where's my lawyer? More with Chretien after the break. I lost my train of thought. You were giving me the gears about Senate appointments.
Yes, you said
But,
that.
let me understand this. I mean, you're a good liberal, and you've got a good, strong base in Quebec, right?
Yes.
And you know how the system works. Is it mandatory, is it morally proper when you're about to be defeated to fill every conceivable seat with party hags? Not all party hags, with some party hags. I mean, is this the Canadian
You know,
way?
but who tell you that it will be defeated?
There's not a hope in there. What
Come
you-
on. You know, one of the big mistakes that the Tories are doing, you know, they are already acting as if they were the government. And it's a great opportunity for us. because, you know, they force me to act as if I was already in opposition. So I have having the best of both worlds today. I can attack them so much so that, you know, that on energy, you know, Pat Carney said the other day, I'm not about to tell you what we will be doing because I will give a break to Chretien to score some points. So, you know, they are defensive of it. They were the government. So they don't say anything, and they look that they have no policies, and we are the one attacking them. Never sell the skin of the bear before you shoot them.
Are we talking about the Liberals or Trudeau?
No, the Liberals or Trudeau, it's him with a big H, I guess.
Oh, I see. Never sell the skin of a bear
Before you kill.
before you kill him, before you shoot him. Oh, my goodness, you're a hunter. Just the man we need here to support the wolf kills in northern British Columbia. I don't ask you to comment on that. You don't need to get into unnecessary trouble, do you?
No, I will avoid that one. It seems to be very lively. I watched it on TV yesterday.
Well, you know, just as a political discussion.
Yes, I saw some guys, you know, you BC guys, you know, you're very different. The hotel owners in up north who said, I won't take any of these guys in my hotel, you know. He said,
You mean the protesters?
you know, any of the protesters.
They'll be lucky if they're not run out of Fort Nelson and Fort St. John on a rail. They'll be lucky if they're not tarred and feathered.
So you will watch it, won't you?
Well, we'll keep a very close eye on it. I, of course, am particularly neutral on it. I
On
no
everything.
opinions except that they should cut down the wolf population.
Oh,
That's my
but you're neutral.
But I'm neutral
Oh,
other
great.
than that. Like, you know, I talk out of both sides of my mouth at times, like
Yes.
liberal politicians.
No, but I cannot. I speak only on one side of my mouth. I'm not a Tory who speak on both sides of their mouths.
Listen, though, but is it the Canadian way of life to reward your friends with Senate seats, even if they are a little bit, you know?
You know, it's a great British tradition. The upper house down there, you know, the lords.
They get it by right, though.
It's even worse because
Oh.
their grandfather was such and such and such and such. It was not your case.
No, it's because he shot somebody and stole his land and became a member of the House of Lords.
Of course.
If I was still living in Scotland today, I'd probably be somewhat left of the Marxist-Leninist party. But that is not the case in this country. You know what I think we should do, Jean?
But
I remember one time I put Trudeau to the phones. He could have killed me. I said, do you like this man or do you not like this man? And he was outvoted. He wasn't liked 3-1. I'm not going to put any questions to the callers, but I want you to just listen and respond to some of these people. What do you think of Chretien?
I think he should be our next Liberal leader, and let Trudeau seek for his Peace Prize.
What are you, a Conservative?
No, I'm a Liberal, sir.
You haven't voted Liberal in what, 20 years?
Approximately.
Yeah, that's the truth, you know.
really?
Yeah, you
Good
Liberal.
for him. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that your total comment? Go ahead to Jean Chretien.
Yes, good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
I have some comments, Mr. Webster, for your guest, and I have a question for him following that.
Yes, ma'am.
First of all, Mr. Chretien, welcome to BC. It's a pleasure to be able to speak to the Liberal ambassador to Alberta.
Thank you.
Mr. Chretien, you've been laying the groundwork for the last 4 years. Je suis de Saint-Albert.
Ah, vraiment?
Okay, and you do have a strong base of support in Alberta, specifically in the Pembina riding.
You know, my mother is from Alberta.
From
I have
St. Paul.
250 relatives in Alberta. It's too bad that they are not all in one riding. We might do well in that riding.
Yeah, but please, don't give us John Turner. We remember him when he was finance minister and what he did to the economy of this country at that time.
You know, the race is not open. You make these comments if we are both in the race, but it might not open.
Well,
But-
I hope that you're running. I do have
Good.
a question for you.
Question. Carry on with the question.
Okay, when we were living in Alberta, you spoke to many groups, and at one time you used to be able to go, or the person that's the working person used to be able to go and listen to you speak for a reasonable cost. Many of us can't afford $100 or even $25 to go to see you speak now. Are you doing
Oh,
this
he's speaking
in
here
BC
for
as
nothing.
well?
Yes, here I speak for nothing today, and the guys who make the money is Webster. But when I go to these fundraising dinner, because it's the new technique to raise money, and I'm sorry, but you know, I went to the University of Calgary the same day that I went to a fundraising dinner, and like I'm going in a few minutes to the UBC, I make some speeches, you know, outside of fundraising dinner. But one of the burden now is because we're having these fundraising dinners, a lot of people invite me to be there to help them to sell for the tickets, and unfortunately it's taking some of the time that I'd like to spend elsewhere. But I have opportunity like this morning to communicate with the average people, and you know, I will be in Alberta sooner or later to make a speech to the average people, and I hope you will be there, madam.
That's the longest answer about nothing important I've ever heard. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. In regards to what Mr. Chretien has been saying about the Progressive Conservatives not releasing any of their future policies, after the 20 or so years of assuming every plank from the NDP when they wish to appeal to the left side of the Canadian voting habit, do you think the Progressive Conservatives should now prepare the Liberal Strategy Party for appealing to business and let the Liberals assume all the planks from the PC Party? I don't think so. I think they know the leopard by his spots. Secondly, I think we have a solution to the West End prostitution problem. Just let the Liberals appoint them all to the Senate.
First point. You had the second point. We'll ignore that. Little tasteless.
No, I think that, when we go in an election, we have a platform. For example, in my field, energy, the Tories claim that our policies is bad. Maroney make a speech in Calgary. I replied to his speech the morning after that. He backed away completely on the night after in Edmonton. And since that time, the critics says that we will tell you what we will do, not before the election, not during the campaign, not just when we'll have a budget later on. But, the people of Canada have the right to know what are their policies. You say we're stealing policies from others. I'm not a doctrinaire. If you have a good idea, give it to me, I will use it. And I won't apologize. We're in politics to have debate so that we can use the best ideas available. And if someone has a good idea, don't want me to use it, he has to shut up.
Go ahead, please.
Yes, good morning, gentlemen. I'd like to ask the Minister if he could comment on the fact that Canada's commitment to NATO is the second lowest per capita of the whole alliance.
We were quite low, I have to admit, and some years ago, I think it's 7 or 8 years ago, we have decided to increase our commitment to national defense, a net increase of 3% a year, and we have been lately the only country, and one of the few countries who have kept that pace. I guess that the Americans have come back under Reagan, and of course, we do not have a tradition in Canada of spending as much as the American, for example, on defense, and I will say that we're making a good contribution, and personally, I'm quite satisfied with the present level.
One more segment with John Chretien, Minister of Energy, and who knows what in the future after the break. Here's a call from a town which has even greater unemployment than Shawinigan. Kamloops, British Columbia, where only the civil servants, more or less, and a couple of pulp workers are on the job. Go ahead to Monsieur Chretien.
Good morning, Jack. Good morning, Mr. Chretien.
Good morning.
Why is it that the federal government doesn't encourage the use of solar equipment by giving tax breaks the same as they do down in the States?
We have a program to help the solar industry, and if people want to convert from traditional energy to solar, they can get some grants. The problem with solar energy...
I'm fully aware of that, Mr. Chretien.
Just a minute. Go and carry on.
And, the question is, we're trying to develop a solar industry in Canada. There is a program, a 5-year program, where we put about $75 or $80 million to help to develop the industry, but it's not an industry today that it is in great demand, and we keep the program. Some say it's too much, some say it's not enough. The question of giving always tax incentives is that, it's probably more difficult to manage than to give grants for people who do some things.
Solar energy is on the back burner. Let's not kid ourselves. Not that important to use it.
I think that we're not the best country to use it. Let me put it
Go
this
ahead.
way.
Another call from Kamloops. My, the whole town's watching. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Mr. Chretien. Welcome to British Columbia.
Thank you.
The thing that has concerned me the most in the last year has been this buildup of nuclear arms. I am very proud of the Prime Minister for starting this initiative. I noticed at the beginning when he went on his peace mission that Brian Mulroney said it was folly, and now I'm reading that Joe Clark is criticizing him heavily.
Okay, what's your question?
My question is, don't you feel that most Canadians are certainly behind a peace initiative?
Oh, I'm sure that the Canadians are behind the peace initiative because, it was, the Prime Minister is a controversial guy. But there is one thing I know. I've traveled around the world. And he has gained the respect of a lot of political leaders. And what it is important at this time is to make sure that the nuclear debate is in the end of the politicians. You know, the problem in the past, and Trudeau was mad some years ago when he presided the NATO meeting in Europe, you know, when he realized that he said that publicly. I came and I had a text already written by the generals, and we didn't even debate the issue. And he wants to bring the debate to the politicians, who in turn have to be responsible to the people. And we have to keep this debate alive. And what Trudeau has done, he has kept the debate at the level of politicians to try to to make the people aware of that, and he's gone around the world. And, you know, some say that he's doing that for political reason. I know it's not for that, because he was very skeptical at the beginning, because he was afraid that it was to be one of the arguments. And as you know, I sit next to him and I said, boss, you have to do it. It's your duty to do it, because, you know, you're a prime minister, and, you know, there's a lot of people who will listen to you.
Go ahead, please.
Yes, Mr. Chretien, welcome to BC. I am certainly not a Liberal supporter. I have a couple of items. I'd like to know how many hundreds of millions of dollars that the Liberal Party has plowed into that ridiculous situation called Mirabel that you're still trying to justify. And number two, I noticed that you glossed over very nicely the horrendous appointment of the young woman, a black woman, to the Senate after she had been a party to costing the taxpayers of Canada about $1 million in wrecking a computer at the university.
She wasn't a party to wrecking the computer. She was convicted only of a lesser offense of, I think it was obstruction.
You know, I think that, you know, you picked up 2 points. We built an airport in Montreal at that time. Some say that there was plans for an airport in Toronto too. It was at the time when the demand was increasing very fast. The Dorval Airport was too small, and they built Mirabel, and after that, there was a turnaround in the demand. You know, you have to face these problems in any type of operation. About the appointment of a social worker who might have made a mistake in her life to the Senate, I think that in our society, we should be able to forgive sometimes, and she has conducted herself since that time as an extremely able lady in doing social works in Toronto. She is articulate, she's not easy, she will make a great contribution, and she will be very different. And
you're telling me she won't be a Liberal puppet in the Senate?
You know, you don't know her. She will speak up her mind.
Just, you know, Lalonde admits mistakes. Surely you will concede, as a member of the cabinet, that Mirabel was a botch-up.
It's used, but it's not 100% used. That is, you know, there is a lot of facilities that you built, you know, yourself, and the market is developing in a different way.
Pickering 2 was another botch-up.
Yeah, but we didn't go ahead with it.
Yeah, but
because by the time we were going ahead with it, you know, the market has changed.
Quickly, go ahead to John Chretien.
Hello. I was wondering, I've got a couple of questions. I was wondering, is there anything the federal government can do about human rights in BC? And secondly, is he opposed to the Senate, like they had a proposition that the Senate be elected?
Oh, yeah, good point. Forget the human rights thing in BC. It's very complicated. The old act is still alive for the moment. Are you looking, in the hypothetical day when you might be in a different position, do you think this silly suggestion of a 9-year non-re-electable term for the Senate has any merit? 9 years?
You know, the debate is open. Some say that the senators should be appointed. Some say they should be
What does Jean
elected.
Chretien say?
I think we need a reform there, because there is a perception that the Senate is not, you know, that as useful as it could be. And perhaps the solution is a different form of a Senate. Some say appointed by the provinces in part and by the federal government, another room of debate that might complicate the system somewhat. The election for 9 years, not one term, it's one solution. I'm not married to that.
Jean.
I'm not excited, and I'm not against.
Jean.
Let's have a good debate about
John,
it.
I'm not ashamed, even if you are a Liberal cabinet minister, from Quebec of all places, to say that you are a friend of mine. But I have one little tip to give you if you're ever in a campaign. Keep your answers to each question to 35 seconds and no longer. You tend to run away with yourself. Were you comfortable this morning in the interview?
Absolutely comfortable today with you.
Absolutely what?
Comfortable.
Comfortable.
No.
Say again. Comfortable.
You're trying to make an Anglo out of me. It's going to be difficult. I don't want to make you, you know,
Quebecois.
Yes, or anything like that. Be what you are, I will remain what I am, and we can have fun together, Jack.
Merci,
That's
monsieur.
Canada, my
Merci, monsieur.
Okay, thank you.
I'll be back with the F-Plan diet woman, Audrey Eyton. That was a heavy political interview this morning, full of social significance. After the break. Audrey Eyton's extraordinary F-Plan diet. Here is Audrey Eyton. This has swept the Western world, hasn't it?
It's a great tribute to the intelligence of the world, yes. It's the best-selling diet all over the world.
Audrey, where are you from?
England.
South of England, of course.
Yes.
Whereabouts in South of England?
London.
Went to a good school, did you?
Not terribly, no. I was born in the north.
You've got a fancy English public school, ghetto school accent.
I don't know.
What's your weight?
Well, I talk in stone, 8 stone 3. It's 8 times 14. It's about 100.
8 foot, that took
I can't do
115 pounds. How
that
tall are
sort,
you?
That sort of thing.
How tall are you?
5'2.5".
Is that the ideal weight?
Yes.
When did
yes.
you discover the diet?
I started working on it about 3 years ago, starting from learning about the health aspects of fibre. But I've been working in this area of dieting for 20 years. So.
What are you?
Well, I run a magazine in Britain that's a sort of Bible to anyone dieting. It's all about the subject.
Now, is this a modification of other diets? As I skipped through it, it looks a little bit like the Chretien diet.
I got this straight from medical research, and that's the difference. Now, anyone who's not a lunatic these days is saying high fibre, low fat. If a diet doesn't say that, it's nonsense. Now, why the F-Plan has been so enormously popular, it makes it easy. So Chretien is more of an extreme.
No fat, no butter, no salt.
Right. Well, you know, honestly, you needn't have none. It's low. So what you find, what this does is really take science to the supermarkets. You can be quite normal and you can follow the F-Plan, and that's why
okay.
It's really called
What is fibre and what foods does one get it in?
Well, it's a cell wall material of plants. So what it means is having more cereal foods, fruits and vegetables. But people think it means eating the doormat and the, cereal
Nothing
pack.
I hate more than
Right.
broccoli with nothing to dip it into.
Now, if you don't like broccoli, you don't have to eat it. That's the thing about the F-Plan. Do you like peas?
Yeah, I love peas.
Right.
Oh, but they're a no-no on Weight Watchers and things.
Well, that's silly and that is outdated. Do you like baked potatoes?
Love them.
That's what you get on the F-Plan.
Can I put
Sweet
salt
corn.
on them?
There's a lot of health evidence against salt. I leave everyone to do their own thing, but there is strong evidence against it. I don't believe in doing too many things at once. I think if you're switching to high fibre, low fat, you're doing a heck of a lot for your health and your weight.
I am basically a peasant, right?
Peasant food is what we should be eating
With
now.
a couple of faults. I haven't had bacon and eggs for a month, and I could eat 6 plates full. That's out.
I used to have bacon, eggs, sausage and black pudding, and I really don't want it anymore. It goes. You get over it. Give it a bit of time.
But that's a no-no. Are eggs a no-no on your diet?
Well, you're allowed a few. I mean, 2 or 3. There are omelettes. The thing is, nothing is bad in moderation. And it doesn't mean you can have your bacon and egg on Saturday. I mean, once a week. Nothing is bad in a small quantity.
But what do you use to fill if you're, a person like myself who is a compulsive eater?
Well,
what do you use to fill that won't add a single ounce to my pudgy little body?
The lovely thing, your pudgy little body, the lovely thing about high fibre food is it's more filling than other food. Look, think of 2 ounces, think of 200 calories. You get a tiny bit of butter like that, but you get a whole baked potato. So for your calories, you get a lot more to eat. It becomes much more filling. It actually swells in your stomach. It's a spongy stuff. You don't feel the hunger. So people in high fibre countries just naturally cut down their calorie intake. That's a fantastic thing.
I see you've got recipes here which include peanut butter. A meal, 1 tablespoon of peanut butter, 85 calories.
Again, nothing is bad in moderation. Now, you don't put it on with a spade, but you can spread a little and you can have a peanut butter sandwich, wholemeal bread, whole wheat bread. That's the thing on the F-plan.
I'm told in many places in all these diets, my wife and I have been dieting for 1,000 years, that it doesn't matter a damn whether you buy this cotton batten, cotton wool you call it in England, cotton wool bread, you know, this bakery stuff, or whole wheat. Is that not true?
It does make a difference because they've actually done scientific tests measuring what people ate. And if you eat wholemeal bread, again, it's this fibre story, you eat less. They did some tests in America just last year.
All vegetables are fibre. Are there any vegetables you can't eat? What about avocado? Is that a vegetable?
That is the one vegetable with fat in it. So it's the only high-calorie one. Any other vegetable...
out with it.
What?
Out with it.
Well, certainly don't have much of it because there's so many others that are, you know, low-fat, high-fibre.
When you say it cold-blooded, though, cabbage, lettuce, celery,
I don't
broccoli,
adore bean soup,
cucumber
pea soup,
sandwiches.
pastas, wholemeal pizzas, spaghetti, lovely things.
Wholemeal
baked potatoes. You're going on the miserable side. You've got to read through that
Can you
book.
eat? If you got to make a wholemeal pasta, you don't buy them in the Pizza Hut.
Absolutely, it's best to make them because you get a low-fat topping. But there's a spaghetti dish in there with a sort of clam sauce, and it's absolutely delicious. Honestly, you will find you are nicer food.
Can I go out today and order a bowl of beans? See, every day at lunchtime,
soup is
I go to our
marvellous.
cafeteria, which ain't all that
Right.
bad, despite what people say about it. I like it. And I get a salad.
Lettuce salad is boring, but you can have more exciting salads. Now, chili con carne, do you like that?
Love it.
Now, all you do, have more beans, a little less meat, and you drain the fat off, your wife drain the fat off the meat. And there you get a good high fibre,
You telling me I can
low-calorie
have
dish.
baked beans?
Absolutely. Baked beans on wholemeal toast are one of the most healthy meals you can eat. All
How
of
many
Britain-
calories in 2 slices of wholemeal bread and half a can on this slice and half a can on this slice?
It'd be about 300. Nothing
know.
bad. And it is very filling. It's easy to do. Now, this is the thing about the F-plan. It's easy meals. Open a can. You can be on good weight-losing eating.
How many books have you sold? The hardcover was out last year, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, in Britain,
I
as you know-
apologise for missing you last year. How did it?
Well, it's been the biggest diet seller ever in Canada.
Millions.
In Britain, it sold about 2.5 million, more than every diet book added together over the last 20
And
years.
in the States?
#1 last year. Australia, New Zealand. New Zealand, it's the fastest selling book ever in the history of the country. So people are very intelligent.
Jesus, doing very well. How old are you?
Me, 48. I knew you were going to ask that.
I always ask it.
I could tell.
Because you
I
see,
could
in
tell.
your case, I can see you don't look a day more than 47.
I would have been disappointed.
That's my stop. Your calls to Audrey Eyton. How much is a pocketbook?
It's $3.95. It's just out in paperback.
How long
now.
would it take me to lose 20 pounds on this diet? If I followed it properly.
You could do it in 4 weeks.
You're joking.
At London University, checked by them, men were losing 18 pounds in 3 weeks.
And that's on 1,000 calories a day.
1,000 calories, yes.
On
We tell them
15
they could go to 1250 if they wanted.
What about 1,500?
Well, you know, it shouldn't take much longer than that. Men lose more quickly than women. It's very unfair.
Oh, and of course, you must go about in a dance skin doing your aerobics, mustn't you?
No, that would be on the diet alone. Now, obviously, you know, it's good to do exercise, but that's
Your
that
calls
thing.
to Audrey Eyton. Very successful dieter. Turned it in not into fat, but into cash. After the break. First of all, from Audrey Eyton, the author of the fabulously successful F-Plan diet. What about restaurant eating? When I'm on a diet, which I am quite seriously at the moment, I just go straight for a salad, much as I hate them. But I'm even worried about the dressing, the salad dressing.
Right. If you know what you're doing, it's usually possible at least that you can certainly have a low-calorie meal. And as you say, going for the salad is a safe bet. But I went in an American fast food place the other day, and I had a little bowl of chili, just a small amount, a baked potato, and a salad. And that was a good high-fibre, low-fat diet because I didn't have a lot of chili. Their chili was fatty. You can do it, but you've got to know low fat and high fiber.
And if you order a big steak, you can only eat this much.
Absolutely, learn when to leave.
But if I paid for it, I'm going to eat it.
Oh, what a rotten Scottish attitude.
No, but
You've got to get out of that.
At least
You
I could
really
ask for a
have.
doggy bag and take it home and eat it for my lunch
If
the
that
next
makes
day.
you feel better, that's all right.
Yeah. So it's not that easy, the restaurant
It's
meetings.
even better to give it to the dog, actually.
That's the excuse to take it home for the dog. Go ahead to Audrey Eyton.
Good morning, Jack. Good morning, Audrey.
Hello.
First of all, I must say that you're a darling. I'm never sure whether to kiss you or kick you. But anyway, I do enjoy your show.
So you should.
Jack will do the kicking, I think.
I'm sure. Audrey, I have dieted for many, many years. And first of all, is this based on calorie intake, your diet?
Yes, it is. Look, in high fiber eating countries, people don't get overweight. So very possibly, if you just went on sufficient fiber, you would gradually lose weight. But you want to lose it quickly. So I say 1,000 to 1,500 calories a day for that reason.
I see. I have a friend who continuously tells me all the vegetables that you can eat and all the meat you can afford. And so I look at dieting this way. But it sounds just fantastic, and I'm looking for your book. I will look for it.
Okay, love, thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
Do they use this in fat farms?
Sometimes
No, they
they're
don't, do
rather
they?
cranky. They use this in the top medical research establishments. If you go to the major ones in the world, that's the sort of diet they
Go
use.
ahead, please, to Audrey Eyton, the F plan.
Good morning, Audrey.
Good morning.
Could you tell me how much a woman could lose in a month? You tell Jack he can lose 20 pounds, but can I do the same?
Women lose more slowly, and I hate saying a set amount because it depends on your weight. The more heavy you are, the more quickly you will lose. That'll apply on any diet. On the F-plan pattern, because it's high fiber, you've got to lose weight more quickly on 1,000 calories of that than any other eating pattern. So I can promise that.
Women are slower because of a different metabolism process.
They have a lower calorie requirement.
How heavy are you, my dear?
Thank you very much.
No, no, don't go away.
Oh.
How tall are you?
About the same height as Audrey,
And how heavy are you?
145.
You're not that fat, but you could lose 20,
No.
couldn't you?
He does ask women brutal questions, doesn't he?
doesn't he?
Actually, that sounds, maybe 20 pounds overweight or something like that. I mean, you should get, we had people, even women, losing up to 17 pounds in 3 weeks. I would think, but an average 3 pounds a week you should get.
Go ahead, please. Hello, what are you?
Two-part question. Beans cause me a lot of gas.
Oh, yeah, beans cause considerable flatulence, is it?
I
How do you
knew
resolve
I'd...
that problem? And the other part of the question is, I basically try and follow.
Go on.
I basically try and follow the Canadian 4-food guide.
Okay, let's deal with the question of flatulence and beans. This
I
is an
knew
honest
I would
show.
never get away without flatulence. It is the one little snag. As you switch, it sort of stops in a while. And at the beginning, the answer is keep to wholemeal bread, the cereal, keep low on the beans and peas until your body adjusts.
You say go ahead. Go ahead, please.
Right, sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, good morning, Audrey.
Good morning.
Yeah, how's chances on a date tonight?
How's what?
He wants to take you out for dinner.
Oh, thank you very much. Will you
But a
phone up
diet
and...
date.
What?
I'm 10 years younger and 10 pounds overweight.
Look, this is the best offer I've had today. Thanks very much. And please
Okay.
leave your number.
Yeah. Where am I? I'm quite confused. Go ahead from Williams Lake.
Thank you very much. I want to say to Audrey that I'm certainly just delighted with the F-Plan diet. I have been on it since August, have lost 45 pounds. I became a diabetic, and it has. I'm now just treated by diet alone.
Great. You must have been a bit of a
Fantastic.
slob.
Beg your pardon?
You must have been very fat.
Yes, and I still am, but I've got about 39 pounds to go.
Well, I mean, it's fantastic to lose that much. And
Congratulations. I hope to follow
Delighted.
you down the skinny road.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. You know you get to hate skinny people when you're overweight?
I know.
You
I
really
know.
do. You
Yes,
look at them and you
yes.
think they must have something terribly wrong with them.
I know exactly how I feel.
We've got one girl on the set here who's 6'6" and weighs 90 pounds soaking wet.
They're dislikable.
And eats all the time. Go ahead from Kelowna.
Good morning to both of you. Before I pose my question to Eileen, I want to say that I've switched from Donahue to Webster, and I'm really enjoying you.
Donahue is very nice indeed, but he doesn't have the panache that Webster has.
A lady of
Well,
taste.
what I wanted, good morning. I wanted to ask if this diet would speed up the metabolism. I was on a diet from a dietitian, and I was on 565 calories a day, and I did lose 2 to 3 pounds a week on it, and for a total of 40 pounds. But and I wasn't hungry, but I'm going to go out and buy this book.
Just do that.
Quick answer is 600 calories a day is too low. But on a high carbohydrate diet, which is a high fiber diet is, your metabolism is faster. It's very interesting, but that information's emerged recently.
And are you telling me, Audrey, that you can do this diet yourself, no problem? Would you even have to check with a doctor on this diet?
Look, if you're in normal health and if you're overweight, going to say to your doctor, can I lose weight on the F plan, is rather like going and saying, can I give up smoking? Because you're on a healthier pattern of eating. So if they put the average Canadian, American, British diet in a book and wrote it down and recommended it, they'd put you in prison.
Yeah, I know.
Because, you know, the evidence against it is normal. So this is healthier.
No, you're doing very well on your books. What's the name of your magazine in London?
It's called Slimming Magazine.
Slimming. And you're not setting up these clinics anywhere.
No,
You're just going straight for the publication. Go ahead, please.
Hi. I heard somewhere that if you eat a lot of soup, if you're dieting, you eat soup slower, and that'll help you. And I'd also like to ask her about peanuts. I don't have a weight problem. My husband does. And he eats peanuts like they're going out of style. And I wanted to ask her also about beef. They said it's high cholesterol and it's not good for you because of fatty tissue.
Okay, a couple of questions there.
Soup, it depends on the soup. If it's a very rich soup like a lobster biscuits, high calorie. Pea soup, bean soup, high fiber, very filling, take a long time to eat. Can you remember the other questions?
Yes, peanuts. Our husband sits there eating peanuts till they come out his ears.
Yeah, they're very high in calories. They are high fiber, but you've really got to limit those. You can get a heck of a lot of calories down in 1 gram peanuts. And no one ever stops till they finish the packet. I know I don't. So
peanuts, dry, roasted, 1 tablespoonful, 52 calories.
They're fairly high. Now, meat, the answer is not no meat. But we shouldn't eat great big juicy steaks. You know, that used to be the nutritional advice. A little meat, not a lot of meat. That's where it stands.
Is it not a fact that prime rib, grade A beef is still 50% fat, no matter if it's the best steak?
Even if it looks absolutely lean, there's all that fat in it. So it's cut down, not cut out.
Good show. More calls to Audrey Eyton on the fiber diet, the F-plan diet, after the break. I've got a call here off the satellite from Fort Frances, Ontario, which is down on the Minnesota border. Go ahead, Roger, to Audrey Eyton.
Okay, Audrey. I was just wondering on this diet, what are you allowed to, I'm not familiar with your diet, but what are you allowed to drink on it?
As much as you like that's calorie-free, obviously. But what I allow on the F-plan, I say, look, if you're used to drinking alcohol, you'll be so miserable if you give it up altogether. So just cut down on it. So, you know, you can have a couple of glasses of wine a day. It's all explained. You take it in with the calories. But I would be miserable if I didn't have, you know, a couple of glasses of wine in the evening.
Well, the Queen drinks gin and tonic. Surely you can drink gin and tonic.
There's even some evidence that it helps people, you know, with stress and the heart factor. I was very cheered by that.
Yes, sure. When you're hammered, you're
I
not
just want to
worried
see, I
about
go
anything.
to diet myself.
Good for you.
On this one, you drink 6 bottles of beer a day.
6 bottles of beer is a no-no. It's about 300 calories.
Like beer a day, you still guaranteed to lose 20 pounds a month on it.
On what? On what?
A light beer a day, 72 ounces of beer a day is still guaranteed to lose 20 pounds a month.
And is that all you take?
Oh, no. You eat real good also.
What diet?
It's called the Fantastic Light Beer Diet. It's just a diet I got with Budweiser and Anheuser-Busch in the States.
Oh, you dreamer, you.
Pardon?
You're a dreamer, the fantastic light beer diet pushed by Budweiser. There's another diet called the drinking man's diet pushed by Valentine's. You lose weight on it, but you're dead in 3 weeks. Okay, boy, thanks for calling from Fort Francis. Go ahead from... Oh, first of all, I have a question I must ask you on behalf of a person whom I mentioned. On this diet, what do you do for your iron?
For your what?
Iron.
Right, it was that Scottish pronunciation. In fact, it's a very high vitamin C diet, and the latest research shows that vitamin C plays a very important role in making you absorb iron. The problem is mainly absorbency, so you get some from vegetables, some
So it's
from
good
meat,
for that.
and you absorb it.
But what about desserts for those gluttons around here who continually eat fancy cream desserts?
There are good puds that do good, and fruity puds, and, you know, sweet things, all based on fruit and low in fat.
Fruity puds and sherbety puds.
Light, not fatty and fruity.
She means pudding. You call them fruity puds, don't you? Fair enough. Next call. Salmon Arm. Go ahead from Salmon Arm to Audrey Eyton.
Yes, Audrey. You said...
Yes?
Turn down your television set.
We can hear you.
Yes, okay, you said for your diet you like medical research?
Right.
And anyways...
Sorry, I missed that.
No, I missed it too, because she's listening to her television set 7 seconds later in the other ear. Now, put it down and I'll come back to you. Your punishment is to hang on. Go ahead, please. Hello.
Hi.
Well, ask a question.
Am I talking to Webster?
Yes, you are.
Hey, Jack, I got a weight problem too, like you have. Why don't we get together and have her cook for us?
I could think of worse ideas.
By golly, she's a nice-looking girl.
And I don't know why you have to be there, but thanks anyway. Go ahead from Salmon Arm.
Okay, Audrey, you said for your diet you had medical research for it?
It was all taken from medical research. I mean, I didn't invent a thing. I read all these very boring scientific papers, which don't say things in English, but what it comes down to is what I put in the F plan. So it was translating science into English.
Have you a question?
Yes. What I'd like to know, would this be safe for lactating mothers?
It is a safe pattern of eating. Now, I think probably your doctor would say increase the milk, make it skim milk, but always check with your doctor if you've got, you know, a special situation. But with more milk, I would say yes, probably 1,500 calories.
Yeah, because see, they told me my intake should be 3,500 calories a day and able to feed my 10-month-old babe.
It's a matter of what your doctor says you can have in calories, but then you can follow this eating pattern, but increase the milk.
Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Congratulations, Audrey.
Thank you.
This is a book that really needed to be written. I'm glad it's popular. My question is twofold. Do you advise for or against vitamin supplements? And second, can you really have 7 eggs, or do you limit yourself to the 3 eggs that I heard you mention earlier in the part of the show?
Yeah, well, vitamin supplements, strictly you don't need it, but there's no harm in taking a multivitamin pill a day, you know, if you want to. But it's varied food, it's good nutrition. Now, your second question...
7 eggs.
This. Well,
Fat people have better memory.
The main factor in cholesterol rating is animal fats, not the cholesterol you eat in the form of eggs, actually. So this is very low fat. So I don't get bossy on the eggs, and there's a limit to what you can eat on the calories. But I'd say, you know, do your own thing, but maybe 3 or 4. Just be moderate about it.
Go ahead, please.
Hello, Jack. Hi, Audrey.
Hello.
Article in the Sun or the Province the past couple of weeks concerning the beans, and they said that was discovered was the cooking that caused it, that they could break down in the sugar or something that caused the flatulence. If you soaked it overnight and then cooked it at a low heat for 3 or 4 hours, that would eliminate that.
Are you aware of that, please?
No, I didn't know that, and thank you very much indeed.
You'll check it out. Thank you very much. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I was wondering, my husband eats well, and he eats salads and stuff well, but he takes the salt shaker and he just pours it on everything. Are you defeating the purpose when you do that?
Salt. It won't affect your weight, however much salt you eat, but on the health factor, there's very strong evidence that it
Audrey,
can cause
how
hypertension.
can you say that?
Salt won't.
Sodiums make you retain water.
No, it doesn't. Your body will, I mean, you'd blow up and you'd blow up if that was the case. Your body has a marvelous mechanism for controlling water. Now, if you had no salt, you'd dehydrate, but you'd die. I mean, you need a bit of salt. But basically, it doesn't have any relation to weight, but on health, the evidence is we should all cut it down.
You are the bearer of very good tidings. I shall choose to believe you right or wrong. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Jack, and good morning, Audrey.
Good morning.
I'd just like to say it is a real pleasure to sit here and listen to someone who speaks about the truth. I've listened to so many fad diets and things like that. I even tried a few, and I went on a diet about 2 years ago, similar to the one that you're speaking of. And it worked for me. I lost 20 pounds, and I've kept it off, and I'm down to the weight I want to be now. And it's just really nice to sit here and listen to a good, healthy diet. I'd like to recommend if there's anybody trying to lose weight, go out and buy the book because it's just excellent.
Goodbye. That's a
well, thanks
good
very
plot.
much indeed.
Prince George, short call from Prince George. Go ahead.
Yes, Audrey, I was wondering, I'm 5'7" and I weigh about 125 pounds. Am I overweight? And if I am, how much should I lose?
No, it certainly doesn't sound overweight to me. You know, you can really see it if you are. I don't think you are.
5'7" and 125 pounds. You're out of your mind. You're perfectly proportioned and you're...
But I feel fat.
That's in your head.
Just for once, he's right.
You may be a fat head, but you're not a fat body. That's ridiculous. Don't let anybody nag you into losing weight, or you look like a beanpole, or a rake, or a lamp standard, or a broom handle. And that's a fate worse than death, is it not, Audrey?
You are absolutely right.
Good for
I
the
hate
ego,
to say it.
anyway.
Oh, well, yes, I go about life comforting and giving aid and whatnot to those in distress. And one who is not in distress is the charming 48-year-old, did you say 48?
48.
48-year-old Audrey Eyton making a bundle on the F-plan diet. Thank you, Audrey. We'll sell you lots of books for, you know, because it's the good of the public you're after, not the good of your pocketbook. After the break. Soon I shall be a shadow of my former self, but not tomorrow. In a month's time, I'll come in here looking like God knows what. Tomorrow, Brian Smith, the Attorney General of BC, got some important matters to take up with that man at 9 a.m. precisely. Jean Chretien with Webster on check at midnight.